Well, greetings and welcome to our fourth installment of our video annotations of the epic Anglo-Saxon poem Beowulf. We were introduced to a prologue about the monster Grendel, who's sitting fuming in his lair because he hasn't been invited to the party, to the mead hall, right? He then goes and wrecks house and every night preys upon the community people there, right? The Danes. Hrothgar sends out the help beacon, somebody please. And then, of course, our second installment was our introduction to Beowulf, who answers the call with his men, travels across the sea from Sweden, I believe. He's called the Yates, and his people are called the Yates. And then our third installment is the battle, the showdown. And you think it's over, but it's not, because now we have Grendel's mom. Ooh, you thought Grendel was bad. You got to check her out. So keep in mind our focus, our Anglo-Saxon literary poetic device focus has been alliteration. They use this a lot. They do not use rhyme scheme. They use caesura to a lesser extent. We've looked at that, that weird natural pause in between lines, now done with a comma. And then really the main focus is kennings, those wonderful compound metaphors for people and things, sin-stained demon. Today we're going to look a little bit about stock epithets, and really it's just kind of furthering our narrative. So here we go. Although one monster has died, another still lives. From her lair in a cold and murky lake, where she has been brooding over her loss, Grendel's mother emerges, bent on revenge. Here we go. So she reached Heorot, where the Danes slept as though already dead. Her visit ended their good fortune, reversed the bright vein of their luck. No female, no matter how fierce, could have come with a man's strength, fought with the power and courage men fight with, smashing their shining swords, their bloody hammer-forged blades onto boar-headed helmets. These are examples of stock epithets right here. Hammer-forged, boar-headed, referring to things, not people. So maybe that's one sort of indication of how to differentiate between stock epithet and kenning. Again, think about the weapons and the regalia of what they're wearing. Boar-headed to the Anglo-Saxons. If you go to your margins, speak of this is a pagan tradition of adding animals that might protect them in battle. Violent, bloody boar might be one of them. Also, don't forget about how the blacksmith was almost revered in their culture because of what he could do with metal, almost wizard-like, Gandalf-like, right? The references to Wayland, who was a Germanic mythos blacksmith, much like Hephaestus in German mythos. Anyway, so she's slashing and stabbing with the sharpest of points. The soldiers raised their shields and drew those gleaming swords, swung them above the piled-up benches, leaving their mail shirts, and we made some chainmail in class, and their helmets where they'd lain when the terror took hold of them. So they don't even have their chainmail and helmets on, I guess, or some of them perhaps do, and man, it takes a long time to build this stuff. I wonder why the blacksmith was so revered. To save her life, she moved still faster, took a single victim and fled from the hall, just one at a time. Mess with their minds, running to the moors, discovered, but her supper assured, sheltered in her dripping claws. Look at the contrast, right? We we kind of start sad, dark, and then it goes to Beowulf, happy, positive, and then dark battle, and then victory. And this is good storytelling, right? The writer and or storyteller, Scop, is playing with her emotions. Anyway, who'd she taken? She took Hrothgar's closest friend, the man he most loved in all earth. So I feel like this might be some biblical allusion to David and Jonathan in 1 Samuel, right? Jonathan being Saul's son. David and he just had a kind of an agape love affair, a friendship, and it was beautiful. And this might be that kind of same concept here, right? Who did she kill? She'd killed a glorious soldier, cut a noble life short. More tragic, right? Another maybe call to action. What's the reason for having to go after her again? Well, she took the king's best buddy. No Yate could have stopped her. Beowulf and his band had been given better beds. alliteration for days. Sleep had come to them in a different hall. So it's kind of interesting. This right here is this wonderful metaphor for heaven. They're not sleeping in this life anymore. They're sleeping in the next. Those who she had killed in battle. I guess she had killed a few and then carries off the best buddy, and that's how that went. But wonderful metaphor there for heaven, a better hall, a different hall. And this is the reason why I believe Herot in some circles equals heaven. You go to my last video, we speak of, what's heaven described at in New Testament scripture as a place where we're surrounding the throne of God, singing praises to him eternally. In the meat halls, they would be surrounding a fire and singing to one another, but there was camaraderie and peace. And the way it's just described in its opulence and construction makes me think that. Anyway, then all Herot burst into shouts. She had carried off Grendel's claw. Sorrow had returned to Denmark. They traded deaths, Danes and monsters, and no one had won. Both had lost. Remember, both had lost being our contemporary saying, an eye for an eye will leave us all blind, piggybacking on early Jewish law of an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, right? So that's cool. And then it's also kind of cool that let's get green, because I know you said you think Grendel is purple, but I think he's green. She rips off his hanging severed arm from the rafters, the trophy the Beowulf had put up, and carries it off. That's rad, guys. Anyway, here's some more introductory material here, not in the original text. Editor writes, devastated by the loss of his friend, Hrothgar sends for Beowulf again and recounts what Grendel's mother has done. Then Hrothgar describes the dark lake where Grendel's mother has dwelt with her son. So this is Hrothgar speaking to Beowulf. Look how the narrative voice has changed. It's directly speaking to him. They live in secret places, Grendel and his mom, or demon-like people, troll guys. Windy cliffs, wolf dens where water pours from the rocks, then runs underground, where mist steams like black clouds, and the groves of trees growing out over their lake are all covered with frozen spray, and wind down snake-like roots that reach as far as the water and help keep it dark. At night, that lake burns like a torch. Revelation 21:8. Hell is described as a lake that burns with eternal fire. It's described as the second death. And this is where they dwell, so they must be demons of sorts, right? No one knows its bottom, it's fathomless. No wisdom reaches such depths of their watery home. A deer hunted through the woods by packs of hounds. A stag with great horns. What'll they do? Though driven through the forest from faraway places, prefers to die on those shores. Refuses to save its life in that water. This is parallel structure, by the way, on those shores, in that water. It's beautiful writing, and also shows, you mean an animal stalked by wolves would prefer to die with the wolves than jump in the water? That's how bad it is in there. It isn't far, nor is it a pleasant spot. That's an understatement, called litotes. When the wind stirs and storms, waves splash toward the sky, as dark as the air, as black as the rain, parallel structure. That the heavens weep. Our only help again lies with you, Beowulf. Grendel's mother is hidden in her terrible home in a place you've not seen. Seek it if you dare. Save us once more, and again twisted gold, heaped up ancient treasure, will reward you for the battle you win. Contrast with Christian tradition, you can't always take it with you. Whereas German tradition, this being originally a pagan Germanic tribe, told story, placed such great emphasis on, fame, money, gold. And thus ends our intro to Grendel's mom.